Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. All right, so today we're going to be looking at how to draft off shoulder. Okay, we'll be looking at two different methods of drafting off shoulder, and it's going to be super detailed, easy. Okay, we're going to handle off shoulder once and for all. All right, so let's jump right into it. We'll start by drafting our basic bodice block. Okay, so we're working with a shoulder of 7.5 inches, neck width of 3 inches, and neck depth of 1 inch. So I'll go ahead and connect these points. All right. Okay, so I'm going to slope the back block by 1 inch. All right. Now let's go ahead and label. So that's the back block, and this is the front block. Okay, so I'll come in with my ruler and we're going to connect to that 1 inch shoulder slope. All right, and here we have it. Now let's move over to the front. So for the front, we're working with a neck depth of 3 inches, neck width of 3 inches, and a shoulder of 7.5 inches. Okay, we're also sloping the front shoulder with 1.5 inches, and this is a standard. Okay, now I'll go ahead and connect these points. All right, now I'll also proceed to connect the shoulder slope, and here we have it. So the next thing we're going to look at is the chest line. Now we're making an off shoulder. So to get your chest line, you need to do your bust round divided by 6 plus 1 for off shoulder. Okay, because you don't need the shoulder to be deep. Okay, and we're working with a bust round of 38 inches divided by 4 divided by 6 plus 1 inch will give us 7.25. Then we're also proceeding to add the 1 inch back slope. Okay, back shoulder slope, and that will give us 8.25. all right, so I'll go ahead and just make a mark there. Now it gave me 8.33, so I just approximated that to 8.25. okay, so I'll mark it across both the front and the back block, and I'll connect it using a straight line. So this is our chest line, and I'll go ahead and label. Now let's proceed. All right, so on the chest line, you go ahead and repeat your shoulder measurements, and we're making use of 7.5 inches. So I'll mark it on the back chest line and on the front chest line. Now I'll come in with my straight line, and we're connecting it, okay, to the shoulder slope. All right, and I'll go ahead and connect the back. Now let's proceed to mark all our vertical measurements. Okay, so from the starting point, we'll mark her bust point line of 10.5 inches. Then her underbust length is 14 inches. So I'll go ahead and make a mark on 14 inches. Okay, and the front length that we're working with is 17 inches. So these are the vertical measurements that we're working with. Okay, I'll go ahead and just repeat the same marking just so that we can get a straight line. So we're marking a bust point length of 10.5, underbust of 14, and front length of 17. So I'll proceed to connect these measurements. All right, so let's go ahead and label. So this is the bust point line. Okay, and that's the underbust, and that's the front length. All right, this is it for the front. Now let's move over to the back. So we need to mark our back length of 16 inches. Okay, so I have my tape placed on the starting point. So I'll go ahead and mark my 16 inches. Okay, I'll also come in with my straight line, and I'll connect this point. And here we have it. So I'll proceed to label. I'll call it my BL, which is the back length. Okay, now let's proceed. All right, so let's go ahead and mark the round measurements. Now the bust round we're working with is 38 inches, and 38 inches divided by 4 will give us 9.5 inches. So we're going to place this measurement on the chest line. Okay, so I'll come in and I'll mark my 9.5 inches. Now the waist round we're working with is 30 inches. 30 inches divided by 4 will give us 7.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead and make a mark there, and we're adding that allowance of 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and make a mark on the 1.5 inches extra. Then I'll proceed to join. Okay, so I'm connecting from the chest line to the waist measurement. Okay, and here we have it. Now if you notice, I connected it with a broken line. Okay, I'll tell us the reason as we proceed. So let's mark the bust span. Now her bust span is 8 inches, and 8 inches divided by 2 will give us 4. I'll mark it on the bust point line and on the waistline, and I'll proceed to connect this. Now if you don't know how to get your bust span, simply divide your bust round by 8 and you subtract 1 inch from it. Okay, now let's go ahead and share our that allowance. Okay, remember we added an allowance of 1.5 inches, so we're dividing that into 2, and that gave us 0.75 each. Okay, that's it. Now let's mark our bust start. So her front length is 17 and the back length is 16, so it's just a difference of 1 inch. All right, so from the bust point line, I simply came down by that 1 inch and I connected it back to the bust point. And here we have it. We are done with the front for now. All right, let's go ahead and mark her armhole. So from the chest line, I came up by 3 inches and I came inwards by 0.75. All right, so we're using a straight line to connect to that 0.75 mark, and I'll use a curved line to finish that curve. Okay, and this is it for the front. All right, now let's move over to the back. So on the back, before we mark anything on the back, we need to do our back tightening, and in this case we are doing 100% back tightening because this is an off shoulder. Okay, so on the waistline, I will go ahead and mark my 1 inch and I'm connecting that to the neck depth. Okay, like I said, this is 100% tightening. Okay, and this is what we have. Now we can proceed to mark our round measurements. So we're working with a bust round of 38 inches divided by 4 will give us 9.5. So I have my tape placed on the back tightening, okay, and not on the center back. Now I'll also go ahead and mark my waist round of 7.5 and I'm adding a that allowance of 1 inch. Okay, so I'll go ahead and connect these marks. All right, now let's go ahead and mark our armhole. Okay, so we're simply going to take the midpoint of our armhole line. All right, and we'll come inwards by 0.5 inch. So I'll come in with my straight line and I'm connecting from the shoulder tip to the 0.5, and I'll use my curved line to finish that up. And this is it. The armhole is set. Let's go ahead and draft our dart. Okay, so her bust span is 8 inches. 8 inches divided by 2 will give us 4. Now I'll make a mark there, but because we need to have a straight line, I'll take my tape back to the center back line. So what we have there is 5 inches. Now from the chest line, I came down by 1 inch. All right, so I'll simply connect this. Okay, now we're going to divide our dart allowance of 1 inch into 2, and that will give us 0.5 on each side. So I'll connect this. Okay, and our back dart is ready. So this is the basic bodice block, half scale. Okay, is that simple. Now let's proceed to do our alteration. Okay, so we'll begin with our alteration. Now let's mark our underbust measurement. So we're working with an underbust of 29 inches. So from the center front, I came in by 3 inches and I moved the tape to the second dart leg, okay, to mark my 7.25, which is my underbust round divided by 4. Now you measure what you have left, and what I have left is 0.5. Okay, but I like to tighten my underbust from the second dart leg with 0.75. So in total, you should have minimum of 2 inches to tighten your underbust. Okay, so that's the summary of what I just did. Now let's jump into the off shoulder proper. So this is the method 1. Okay, now for the method 1, we're going to be connecting from the neck width to the bust point line using a straight line. Okay, so I'll go ahead and draw a straight line that will run from the bust point to the neck width. All right, and I'll highlight this. Remember I said that this is method 1 of our off shoulder drafting. Okay, so now we need to determine our cleave line, or where you want your off shoulder to start. Okay, but for mine, my off shoulder is starting from 6 inches. Okay, so I'll just mark the 6 inches across both the front and the back block. All right, and I'll proceed to connect this. Now the 6 inches is not a constant, it's about your choice where you want your own off shoulder to start from. Okay, but mine is starting from 6 inches. Okay, so I just connected it, and this line is our cleave line, or you can just call it your off shoulder line. Okay, now we need to tighten the off shoulder line. Okay, and to do that, you need your strap to strap measurements. Now this is simply distance between your bra hands, okay, your bra straps. And to get this, you're going to divide your shoulder measurement into 2 and you subtract 2 inches. Okay, shoulder measurement divided by 2 minus 2. We're working with a shoulder measurement of 15. 15 inches divided by 2 is 7.5. 7.5 inches minus 2 is 5.5 inches. So I'll place my tape like this and I'll make a mark on the 5.5 inches. All right. Now we need to measure what we have left. And what I have left to the armhole curve of the front is 1.25 inches. Okay. Now we need to divide that into 2, but not equally. So from the center front, I'll mark ½ inch. And from the side, I'll mark 0.75. So if you add that up, that will give you 1.25 inches. All right. It's that simple. So I'll come in with my straight line and we need to connect these points to the bust point line. All right. So I'll go ahead and just connect using a straight line. You can use a slightly curved line, but for a beginner, it's advisable you make use of a straight line for easy closing. All right. So this is what we have. Now let's proceed to connect our underbust measurements. Okay, so you place your curve like I just did, but ensure that the curve runs through the dart leg. Okay, all right, so I'll just go ahead and connect it. Now on the half length, I like to tighten my waist round by extra 0.25. all right, so I'm going away from each of the dart legs on the waist by 0.25. all right. Now on the side, I'll simply make a mark on that ½ inch, because when you're doing in pattern drafting, you need to ensure that all your measurements are complete. All right, so I'll just go ahead and connect our underbust measurements. All right, like this. Now you need to blend every sharp point, okay, because these are the tiny things that contribute to a perfect fit. All right, now I'll also place my curve on the side front and I'll connect to the 0.75 we have there. All right, and this is it. We're done with our underbust. Okay, now let's proceed to draft our new armhole curve. So for the new armhole curve, you place your tape on the shoulder tip to your chest line. All right, now what we have there is 6.75. So place your tape from the shoulder tip to the chest line like I just did, and you need to get the midpoint. All right, now you need to note your measurement. So mine is about 3.4. okay, so I'll take that measurement. And I'll place my tape from our cleave line, okay, downwards. So I'll take that again. I placed my tape from the shoulder tip to our chest line and I got the midpoint. Okay, now that measurement, you place your tape from the cleave line and you make a mark on that point. Okay, now if you measure it, that's about 1.1 or 1.25. so I need us to take note of something. Now if you make use of this measurement that we just got now, you may end up with a deep armhole. Okay, now a part of your bust will be revealed and that's not what we want. Okay, so I'm going to take us through another method that I have tried severally and it worked out perfect. It's applicable to everyone. So from the chest line, simply come down by 0.9 inch. Okay, now so you need to mark just that tiny stroke before the next number. So that's the 0.9 inch. All right, now this applies to everyone. So place your tape on the chest line and come down by 0.9 inch and make a mark there. All right. So we need to extend our armhole line, the straight line. Okay, just simply extend it to that 0.9 inch mark, just like I am doing. Okay, now we need a straight line there. So I'll also go ahead and mark that 0.9 inch again. All right, so that we can get a perfect rectangle. So I'll go ahead and highlight that box. Okay, so this is our new armhole armhole line. Okay, although the armhole is not fully drafted yet. All right, so this is it for now, and I hope we are clear at this stage. Okay, remember from the chest line I simply came down by 0.9 inch. Okay, and I just connected it. Now, so this is what we have. Now we are also going to repeat the same thing on the back. So I simply wrote that down so that we will not forget when we move over to the back block. All right, so I'll go ahead and slash to the bust point, okay, so that we can close the bust dart, but that will be much later. For now, let's move over to the back. So remember, we did 100% tightening on the back, and that simply means that we tightened the back by 1 inch. So I'm also going to go ahead and extend our dart, okay, our dart line to our cleave line, okay. So I extended our dart line on the back to the cleave line. Okay, now we'll go ahead and mark our strap to strap, and remember we got our strap to be 5.5 inches. And how did we get that? We simply did shoulder divided by 2 minus 2. Okay, we're working with a shoulder of 15 inches divided by 2 is 7.5 minus 2, 5.5. So I'm going to place my tape on the back tightening and not on the center back. So I'll mark my 5.5. Now we need extra ½ inch to tighten this back, okay? Because we don't want any form of bulge at all. So I'm using ½ inch to tighten the back, okay? So I'm using extra ½ inch for my dart. All right, so in total we have 6 inches on the cleave line, okay? Now I'm going to extend this line downwards. All right, so you remember our 0.9 that we marked on the front, our new armhole line. All right, it's time for us to mark it on the back. So from the chest line on the back, I'll come down by 0.9 inch. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it. So this is it. This is our new armhole. Okay, so this is our new armhole for the back. Now let's go ahead and mark our back tightening. Okay, so we added just ½ inch, and we're going to divide that ½ inch into 2. That will give us 0.5. That will give us 0.25 and 0.25. So you can connect to the 1 inch that we came down with on the chest line, but I like to extend my dart all the way to the waist. Okay, so it's optional, but I like to extend my dart all the way to the waistline. All right, so this is it. You simply connect it using a straight line, and it's as simple as that. We have tightened the back. All right, so let's go ahead and plot and connect our armhole for the back. Now remember that this is method 1. So there are 2 methods to connect your armhole. You can either use a straight line or you can use a slightly curved line. But whatever you're doing, note that the deeper you go, the more your body is revealed, your bust especially. So for method 1, I'm making use of a straight line to connect our armhole. All right. So, and this is it. I have connected using a straight line. We are almost done with the back. All right. Now let's move over to the front. Okay, so we're repeating the same thing on the front armhole. Now we're simply using a straight line to connect from our new armhole line to the cleave line, okay, using a straight line. And it's that simple. We are done with our armhole curve for the front. All right. Now remember I said that this is method 1. So, and for method 1, we're using a straight line. Now in our method 2, we will use a slightly curved line. All right. So we'll proceed now to cut through so that we can close our bust dart. So I'll go ahead and cut. I'll cut all the way to the bust point and I'll stop exactly on the bust point line. All right. Now we also need to separate the two patterns. All right, so I've separated the front and the back block. Now we need to keep the back aside for now and let's focus on the front. Okay, and we had earlier cut to the bust point line. Now it's time for us to close the bust dart. All right, and it's simple. Simply raise your dart leg along that marked line. Okay, and we're going to rest it on the bust point line. Okay, and here we have it. Now if you pay attention, you will see that the side lines are no longer meeting. So I'm going to come in with my masking tape and we're going to permanently close the bust dart. All right, now I'll come in with a straight line and we're connecting to the extra ½ inch that we used to tighten the waistline. You remember when we were drafting, we used 0.25 on each side to tighten the waistline. So we're going to connect it from the chest line to that 0.5 inch. All right, so I'll go ahead and just connect it, and we're now going to use our marker pen to connect it. Okay, no more broken lines because this is our permanent side front line. Okay, so this is it. We have connected the side. Now let's proceed to close our darts. Okay, and we're also going to mark our neckline. All right, so it's the same process. We're going to raise the pattern paper along the marked line. Okay, just like I'm doing, and you're going to rest it on the second dart leg. Now the moment you do this, your pattern paper should be flat. It should not rumple at all. Okay, because we have cut through to the bust point, so you can see the way it's laying flat. The moment I closed it, this is the way yours should come out. Okay, so we'll go ahead now and we're going to mark our neckline. Now from the cleave line, I'll come down by 1 inch. All right, now the style is completely your choice. Okay, but the style I'm working with is just a slight curve, okay, on the front. So I'm going to just go ahead and connect to that 1 inch I just came down with on the cleave line. Okay, so I will simply connect it, and here it is. It's that simple. All right, so you can see our neckline. Now if any of your dart legs are not meeting up, simply blend it, okay, so that when it's time for you to join, you won't run into any issues of one being longer than the other. All right, is this simple? We are done. Now I'll proceed to finish up my cutting. Okay, and here we have it. We're done with the front. All right, so we're going to keep this aside and I'll come in with the back block. Okay, so for the back, I will just I'll come down by 1 inch from the cleave line. All right, and we're going to connect this. Okay, but we will not do that now until we close the back dart. Okay, now note that closing the back dart is completely optional. You can go ahead and just separate cut off your dart, okay, so that you will end up with two back pieces. It's all your choice, but I want to close my dart. All right, so because I just want to have a single piece as my back. Okay, like I said, it's all your choice. You can go ahead and just cut yours into two, or you close your dart and you have one piece. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut now. Okay, so now it's time for us to close the dart. So it's still the same process. We're going to raise the pattern paper along the marked dart line. Okay, so you raise one dart leg up and you place it on the second dart leg. Is that simple and direct? Okay, so the moment you raise it, you threw it completely out, just like I'm doing. All right, and you raise it, you place it on the second dart leg. Okay, now I'll come in with my masking tape and we're going to permanently close this. All right, so I'll proceed to close the dart permanently. Okay, and this is it. We are done. We have closed the back dart. All right, so I'll finish up my cutting now. Okay, but before then, let's complete our back neckline. So we're connecting from the new armhole, okay, that we have on the back. Remember, we're no longer making use of any other space before that armhole. Okay, and this is it. I have connected. All right, I've connected my neckline for the back. Now we'll proceed to finish up our cutting. All right, and here we have it. We're done with the back. So let's see our pattern set. All right, and we will also label. So that's my side front, and this is the center front. All right, so our pattern set is ready. Okay, so now let's write it method 1. Okay, so that we will be clearer on which method we made use of. Okay, so this is the method 1. Now I'll also write method 1 on each of the front pattern pieces. Okay, and here we have it. So we're done with method 1. All right, now in the next video we're going to learn how to draft our off shoulder using method 2. All right, so till we meet again, bye.